Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Sunday Night Breakdown on an actual Sunday.
Mhm.
Daniel Routledge and Dave Forrester to go back over all the action. We're down to four, Dave. The playoffs have reached
Yeah,
their semi-final stages.
yeah,
Uh, let's see how they got there. We'll start with Friday night. Surrey Scorchers 96, London Lions 105. Mohammed was back for Sorry, Decker and Matt Morgan hitting a couple of threes each. Lions out to a 19-8 lead. And to be honest with you, if I'd been watching this live and not watching it back, having seen what happened, I'd have thought this one was done by about that point.
yeah. I was kind of expecting watching it back, London to go a bit sloppy and a bit devil may care and kind of, lose a little bit of respect for Surrey, and then that's why Surrey got back into it. But actually, watching it, it wasn't really like that.
Mm,
London played pretty hard, um, and they got obviously the main rotation of 10 guys. I think the only one who wasn't playing was Nwaba,
mm.
and Surrey played like a team whose last game it was, to
Yeah,
be honest.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know? And it's nothing like being your last game for get your Americans to kind of show out.
yeah, yeah.
And Cameron Gooden did. But I thought
Cameron Gooden's agent sent that clip
Cameron,
around the world by
well,
now, I would have thought.
I'm certainly right. That's a Euro Cup team. He just dropped 35 on them, and this is kind of hopefully what the Newcastle guys will be thinking next week.
Yeah.
Um, I thought London got a little bit sloppy in the second quarter in that they turned the ball over a bit and
Mm,
they let Surrey get out and get a few cheapies in transition.
mm,
Maybe they overextended on the offensive rebounding, etc. Maybe it was a little bit too easy for them to score, and Bozic called a timeout to kind of tell them about that. But by that point, Surrey had a little bit of rhythm,
mm.
and when the guards are playing, you know, one of the things that we haven't seen this because they've got so many guards, they've kind of come in and out and played minutes at a time,
Mm.
Whereas now, Robinson's out and they haven't got many bigs to they have to play small.
Yeah,
So Cooper's playing more,
yeah,
play more minutes,
yeah, yeah.
Gooden, obviously, who at times this year has been the third guard, he's
Mm,
suddenly gone from playing, you know, in and out like an American playing 12 minutes, having the ball in his hands the whole game.
yeah,
Um, and obviously Steele and all those and Mohammed and those other guys, they can all shoot,
yeah, yeah.
So it gives them a chance to get into a little bit of rhythm. Where it hurts them is down the stretch when they have to kind of find a way of getting make a defensive play.
Mm.
But I thought they were really, really active and really kind of committed. The problem was they couldn't stop London inside.
No.
Didn't
So
have the
so
thing going on.
Gooden and Cooper were going nuts from the 3-point line. Bailey hit one, two. 7 minutes into the second quarter, 34-19 was the quarter score in 7 minutes. 34 points in 7 minutes. They were ahead in the game, 49 to 45. And then, well, end of the third quarter, start of the fourth quarter, London scored 11 unanswered points, five for Connor Morgan, four for Taylor. And again, it looked over, but Surrey would not go gentle into that good night, would they?
Oh,
Cooper
they
and
wouldn't.
Gooden again. Mohammed raging against the dying of the light.
Yeah, well, they, when you make 17 out of 32 threes and
Mm.
you lose by 10,
Yeah.
it's a hard life, isn't it? But they stayed true to themselves. They weren't, and as I say, in many ways, being so small and having the losses of players that they've had, it's just made it kind of easier. Just do more of what we do and do it harder and do it more
Mm.
because they're not going to beat London up on the glass. They're not going to beat them up inside. So they got to spread the floor. London, I didn't think ESA, it wasn't their A game. I don't think it was their A game either.
Mm.
But it wasn't their A game in relation to kind of attention to detail. And I think we'll see that coming forward. I think they'll probably pick it up a notch. But of course, for them, it's even though it's a free game, they know they're not going to lose two games to Surrey.
No.
So kind of the mental, and he managed to get through with playing nobody more than like 28 minutes,
Mm.
which is pretty important.
Surrey got it to 94-98 with three to play, and then a Grantham three basically sealed it. But the 8 seed going out to the 1 seed is meant to happen, but that's probably the best way you can do it if you're Surrey.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got a full crowd in, you get a playoff game, with a full crowd in, and you give them a really good go.
Mm.
Um, and it's always easier to, if they'd lost 55 to 72,
Mm.
or 55 to 66, then everybody would be whatever. But when you lose 96 to 107 or something like that, there's a bit more of a vibe to it because you're scoring the ball and everybody's in the game and enjoying it. So, they've probably gone from kind of a C plus to a B. A C plus season would be in the regular season to a B just by playing London that short over the course of the season. It's difficult. What they have to do now is to work out who they're going to retain, if any, and are they, because what they've benefited from is a little bit of continuity over the season. They have, I think it's fair to say, got better over the course of the year. They've had to deal with some knocks. Obviously, Robinson going down the last 6 weeks, Hunt going down early as well. And even the new big guy they brought in, Owaquelo, going down as well. That's kind of tough to handle, but they were always very deep. And actually, one of the problems they had early season was they were too deep.
Yeah, yeah.
It's clarified some roles. And they play exciting up and down brand of basketball, BBL brand of basketball, and they're playing it within a certain budget as well because their budget isn't what other budgets are. So you've got to find players who are a little bit undersized or who maybe won't have one skill, one solid BBL skill, Cooper, whatever, and then you've got to rely on your British guys to kind of carry you through. And even Mohammed's undersized, but he's got a heck of a lot better over the course of the season as well, impactful. So, yeah, they got their head held high. London got their eyes set on Cheshire, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Gooden 12 of 18, 8 for 11 from 3 for 35 points. Proper, that is a proper highlight reel for the agent. That Cooper, 18 points, Steele, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. They were 17 of 32 from 3-point range. Matt Morgan, 6 of 9 for 22 points. Olasheni, 9 of 12, 21 points and 8 rebounds. Connor Morgan, 7 of 10 for 16 points and 7 rebounds.
Yeah, those numbers aren't, you're not going to beat London if those guys are shooting those percentages, 75 between them. And Olaseni is just, he's just good. He's just unfussy, good, efficient, good, It's just, there isn't really anybody to match his kind of capabilities in the whole league and just doing what he's meant to do, knitting the team together, scoring, finishing, and not wasting possessions. He's just good. Did you see the play at 150 in the second quarter that I told you to watch?
I went back and watched it. What was I looking for, Dave?
You were looking for Gabe Olaseni catching the ball in the post with one hand and bouncing it as he caught it.
Oh, right. I didn't.
And then,
now I see
and
the
then
connection.
turning around and making a post move with a dribble.
Yeah. I didn't get the connection on that. I just
No,
saw
I
it and
didn't really,
thought, was it because Teo was guarding him? Was it because he shot it from 10 feet? I was trying to work out what the connection was.
Yeah, don't want to make it too easy for you. But anyway,
we'll get to that.
Anybody else have a look? Just have a look at 150. These are the very small margins in professional basketball.
Indeed. Bristol Flyers 77, Cheshire Phoenix 91. Chargois off the bench for Cheshire, so Holden was starting. There was an edge to this game, wasn't there, throughout?
There was. I was a little bit disappointed Bristol didn't meet the challenges perhaps as well as I thought they might, from a kind of from a mentality standpoint, from an intellectual standpoint. But there was certainly, there was a lot of talking going on. I think Cheshire kind of invite that. Cheshire kind of live off that almost.
Yeah, and I think Bristol have one or two guys that enjoyed that side of the game as well. Neither team really on top. The big difference early on was actually the 3-point shooting. Cheshire hit 3 in a row in a 10-0 run, which put them 23-33 ahead. At that point, Bristol were 0 of 6 from 3-point range, and Cheshire was 6 of 11 from 3-point range, 3 minutes into the second quarter.
The big thing for me was that Bristol never solved the Charleroi White conundrum. Those guys shot the ball open, shot threes the whole series, both games. And if Bristol went big with Green on the court, and Green's obviously one of the main guys, so he needs to be on the court. They couldn't defend. They couldn't defend the outside, the stretch fives. And obviously the play at the end of the game last week where they kicked it to the corner and Skylar White made the 3 in the corner, which basically iced that game. mentally, that was because Green had come back on the court and he'd helped off White. And when they pulled White up to the top of the key, Green doesn't want to leave the 3-point line. And Charge was the same, and it was just a horrendous matchup for them because Cheshire were able to kind of be, because Cheshire was so scatty inside, and what I mean by that, so scrappy. Holden and Rideau are always digging down to get hands on balls and to make the lane crowded. That means that Green struggled to get any like nice, easy one-on-one touches where he could use his size to score. And at the other end, they were giving up threes for not getting twos.
Mm.
And I thought that was
I thought the other part of that issue was that and Cheshire sort of kept Bristol at bay. The lead sort of bounced from 5 to 10, but Bristol didn't get enough second chance points.
no.
They're the ones that because they don't shoot the ball brilliantly, they need the second chance points, and they didn't really get enough.
Hang on, let's have an underestimation klaxon there. Don't shoot
Yeah.
it brilliantly. Well, they
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
shoot.
yeah.
They were
Well,
shooting.
I get told off. I get told off. I get told all this offensive rebounding is so important.
No, but it's a statement of fact that they're number 10 in shooting in the league. Listen, but they were last time I looked. Maybe Manchester might have submarined them. But so yeah, they didn't. But that's because Cheshire are long. Cheshire, and because you've got a guard in Rideau who's coming back and getting 7, 8, 9 rebounds a game. That's why he's on the kind of triple double watch. And Maceo, Jack, and Cameron Holden's starting, so they're starting longer, more athletic almost. And also they all know that if they get a Kristen, they basically someone like Kristen knows that his best chance of getting a shot is to get a rebound and then run it down the other end. Because he's getting the ball in his hands that way. In the half court, he's a finisher. He's given the basketball when he's in the corner to shoot it or whatever. Rye, the same. Rye's one of these guys, Pierre Hampton style, can catch.
Yeah, he is Pierre Hampton. Yeah.
Yeah, can catch the basketball and go. And those guys just absolutely screw up a defense because you're having a cross match all in the fast break. Whereas if you have a big guy who just throws it to a guard, that takes 3 or 4 seconds off and everybody's back. So as a result, Cheshire have kind of figured out that if we gang rebound, that's our best shot because we can fly in the court and get good shots in transition. And they did that on Bristol, and I thought they just ultimately they were just more set than Bristol. I was disappointed with Bristol because I thought Bristol needed to, you can't, I think the biggest thing for Garden Cheshire is you cannot give White and Charge well open threes. Even if they're both shooting like early 30s in percentages, you cannot just stand there and let them shoot or just put a hand up and just say, okay, if you make it, you make it. Because so much of what they do is pick and pop. It's a massive percentage of their offense. So you have to make them dribble inside the 3-point line. You have to make one of the big guys make a play, as opposed to having the guards set the big guys up to shoot the shots they want to shoot, which they've been shooting this season. And I didn't think Bristol dealt with that at all. For a second game of a 3-game series, I was thought they would have even if you hide Green in the corner on somebody else, and pull somebody else into the screen and roll to make White or Chargeois go down in the post to beat you that way. They didn't really do much in the way of adjustment. And I thought ultimately Cheshire's 5 out beat Bristol's 4 out.
Yeah. Chargeois hit a 3 on the third quarter buzzer, got a technical for his reaction to making the 3. So it was an 8-point game going into the fourth quarter. And then Cheshire 13-8-5 start to the quarter. It's 62-80 and they're in the
semifinals. The bubble popped, didn't it? The balloon kind of, the air just fell out of it a little bit. You don't know. You don't know if it's because Cheshire are that good. I think it helped Cheshire to only win the game the week before by 1. But if they win by 20, it's a little bit more difficult to come back and beat them by 20. By 1, you're on an edge. This is we know we've got to bring our A game here. So I think that kind of helped them mentally. So I couldn't figure out whether it was like Cheshire are that good, or whether Bristol are allowing them to be that good. I think it's probably a combination of them both.
Yeah, same.
I'm honest.
I think Chester have a sense about them that they are that good, but I also don't think Bristol I don't think Bristol were at it. This.
No, yeah, well, that's right. And you know, and you have to, you have to with Cheshire, because they're a 5-out team, and 5-out means 5 guys who can shoot threes basically on the court at any one time. Other than Ulf, they play a little bit of, pick and roll ball. But Ulf doesn't shoot threes, but everybody else on that team is ready to shoot the 3 ball. So, with them being a 5-out team, they're always the hardest teams to guard. But if you guard them well, if you guard them properly, it actually can help you, because their shots are, where their shots are coming from. Right. So if you know where a team's shots are coming from, you know what their shot profile is, a lot of it is about Rideau passing the ball. If you scheme it properly, you can, and you can challenge enough, you can get them to be a bit discombobulated, because their shot selection can reduce in quality. Those shots are still going up. But if you don't, if you don't know which shots you're willing to give up, then it's a long night. And that's what I thought it was for Bristol. I just think, and Andreas got thrown out at the end.
I was about to say, a slightly shorter night for Andreas, who with
Yeah,
1:42 to go, got
a
two.
bit
We didn't see it. He got 2 tees and disqualified in the timeout.
a bit frustrated. But it's that frustration that you're coming to the end of the season. It's been a hell of a season in relation to the amount of games. Bristol obviously with the European stuff as well.
Yeah.
But even then, these teams have been together since middle of August, some of them early August, Caledonia. Now May, they've been around the country. They're playing the same teams. They basically haven't stopped. And on the coaches in particular, it's a heck of a thing. If you look over the past, 4 weeks, you've had Gareth being thrown out at Newcastle. You've had Mark being thrown out at Surrey. Andreas, I think, has been thrown out twice. Might be wrong, maybe just once. Can't remember. Atiba's certainly had at least 2 meltdowns. And Rob's gone as well, I think. And even Bosic has been is gone as well at one point. So it's clearly a kind of emotionally wearing time of the year for coaches. I can get that, there's just, it's not one game or one decision. It's the whole kind of the year, just all the things you have to deal with as a coach. And it's getting harder. Because
there's that thing of today I noted it was the 23rd anniversary of Leicester Sheffield's first playoff meeting, which was the playoff final in 2001. So playoff final being on the same calendar date as game 3 of the quarterfinal. So it just shows it's another extra couple of weeks on the top.
Yeah. And we're still starting relatively early.
It's about the same time start as well.
Yeah. And actually, there's probably more preseason now. I would suggest.
Yeah, there's definitely more preseason.
Teams coming in for longer. So the whole, and it's just I just think all the games being on the TV, 30 years ago there wasn't the video analysis there is now.
No.
There isn't.
There isn't 2 grumpy old men breaking down every time you
absolutely, and you can't pour over all the video on the bus on the way back and break things down. And that, coaching wise, I think that just absolutely just must wear on you. It wore on me when I was doing parts of it, and we didn't have the degree of video that they had. And I had a veteran team, and and didn't really need to be overly fussed by a lot of them, because I knew what they were going to do. But bringing 6 Americans in, young guys all over, the issues that can cause are myriad and varied.
Lucas, 16.6 rebounds, 4 assists. Smith, 15 points and 8 rebounds. Jacob and Ollison both had 10. 37% field goals, only 12 offensive rebounds, and 11 second chance points.
Good job to John. Hi to John's mom.
Rye with 11 of 17 for 34 points and 12 rebounds. I hope he comes back next year just to keep viewership up. Shargwar, 27 points, 5 of 10 for 3 from 3-point range. They were the only 2 in double figures, although Rideau had 9 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, and 4 steals.
Yeah, it's just Sharjah has 27 points. Rye took over at points in this game, but we know Rye is really good, and they struggled to guard him. And I thought Thomas Edwards did a pretty decent shift, but outside of Thomas Edwards, I didn't quite see the stick-to-itiveness from Bristol that they needed. Still too many people letting Rye go left for me. If Rye goes left, he scores because he comes back right, or he keeps going, or he uses his body to put me out of the way. But Sharjah had 27 points. You know, on fact, he got 10 open 3-point looks. He's
Mm,
too good a shooter to do that.
mm,
Whatever the numbers say, you can't. If he's catching and shooting in rhythm, then I'm not letting him beat me like that.
mm,
I'm not letting him get 10 threes up.
mm,
I'm making him dribble the basketball, take 2 steps, and see if he can either make a pass to somebody else or avoid running over one of my big guys who stood in the lane taking the charge.
mm,
Preferably driving to his left because he doesn't dribble the ball his left as much as his right. And you can do that, but it takes more than one person to have one to do that, you know?
mm.
And I thought ultimately they just relied on the missing and they didn't miss enough.
Newcastle Eagles 94, Caledonia Gladiators 71. No Quade Green, an ankle injury.
Mm.
So that puts a lot of pressure on the backcourt. And then Bothwell gets 3 fouls inside 2.5 minutes and huge problems for
When I said they were
Caledonia.
that this was the most likely series to go to 3 games, I
Mm.
didn't know Green was going to hurt his ankle.
The Eagles started 12-4, by the way, while you're thinking.
Yeah, firstly the Eagles have started all season a lot of games at home with a purpose, and they've kind of faded and dissipated into nothing in a lot of those games, which is why they ended up 9-9 at home. Um, the Glads without Green, it's tough for them to create shots. You know that's why they were always, I thought, going to be a good matchup for Newcastle. Always, because you got Johnson and McGill and Austin buzzing around at the other end, who've got a step on quickness on all of the Gladiator guards.
Mm.
The Bothwell thing was unfortunate for Caledonia, insofar as this is the game he had to be there. I mean, it's he isn't a point guard, but he's required to play the point guard. He's been shuttled in and out the past few weeks with Green playing a lot and not playing a lot, and then coming off the bench and not coming off the bench and now being injured. Um, and he never, they couldn't win this game with 4 points in 16 minutes from him.
No.
And the fouls he got, the first one was just a transition. It was McGill, a bit too quick and getting in the lane. Second one was on a cross screen. It was right in front of me. And it was early in the game, and the rest were calling it tight. And they called a lot of fouls in this game.
There
Certainly,
was a lot of fouls.
it was 29 at half time. And, and it was, I was looking at it, I watched it back, and I was like, well, actually, these are most of these are fouls.
Mm.
Um, and there was kind of a lot of stuff like chippy stuff on offensive rebounds where people ran into each other and
Yeah,
knocked into
yeah,
each
yeah.
other and reached and that type of stuff. But it was a really, really, stop start first half. But the second one he got the cross screen, and I saw it when it happened, and I thought, and the ref saw as well, because as he set the screen, he kind of pushed out with 2 hands.
Mm.
He wasn't just running across setting the screen, he would kind of run across and kind of just put 2 hands on them. And that's almost an automatic whistle,
Mm.
because you can give him a bump. If you give him a bump on the screen, you live with that. Ref, you
Mm.
might get away with that, you might not. But
Yeah,
as soon as
yeah,
you have hands to do it, and
yeah.
he might have just been getting his balance. It may have been unfortunate. It might not have been something he was trying to do because it wasn't a shove
No,
like
no.
that. But I saw it as it happened because it was right in front of me. I thought, yeah, and he blew it. And then the third one, he was just a little bit unlucky because it was a broken play. Austin was doing his Buzzy B thing where
Mm.
he gets like 2 steals and 2 rebounds in 3 seconds,
Mm.
and runs around the court, catches a basketball in the perimeter, straight back to the basket. And I thought it was a bit harsh in real time, and I watched it on the TV, and you see that it's a block.
Mm.
Because the first one, maybe not the second one when Austin fell over, but the first one, he's not in the legal guarding position, and he kind of catches him. And then that leaves Gareth with a real decision. And they weren't really on it, Caledonia. Even with him, they weren't really on it because they missed a lot of foul shots in the first quarter.
Mm.
Which again isn't really. It wasn't until Faro came in and Faro gave them a bit of will to win almost.
Yeah.
Which you saw
Uh,
with
Eagles led by 10. Ali Hodges then came in, as you say, went to work a little bit on Delpesh inside, cut it down to 21-18. And then middle of the second quarter, Newcastle 7 in a row, 41-26. And it was never in single figures after that.
no, and I was at this point I was sitting there and I was saying to the people who were next was for me middle of the second quarter Bothwell has to come back in.
Mm.
You know, he plays 2.5 minutes. He gets 3 fouls. He doesn't come back into the third quarter. He's limited then to 22 minutes. On top of that, he's in no rhythm at all.
Mm.
The game's passed him by. And maybe in a league game when you've got other guys,
Yeah, yeah.
but in an end of season game, For me, you throw him back in there. If he fouls out, he foul. If he gets his fourth foul, whatever. But I thought that the danger signs were there for them during that run because Newcastle's intensity was pretty good
Yeah.
throughout. Um, you pointed out on the commentary again. It's all about the starting line was actually playing some good defense at the moment.
Mm.
That I'm beginning to mark the time when Darius comes out to see how many points the opposition have scored. This time it was 10 points in the first 7 minutes. And I think last game it was 10 points in the first 7 minutes. And you can see kind of I think with Whitfield in as well, that's giving them just a little bit more, giving them some defensive specialist effectively, 3-and-D guy, shooter guy, and a little bit more size. And with Johnson coming off the bench, it kind of crystallizes rules a little bit as well.
I guess it's interesting because I presume, maybe I'm wrong, but I presume that was a tactic to take on Caledonia and Quade Green, but it's
Yeah.
worked so well that you sort of go, well, maybe we try this against London next week.
I think they have to. I don't think it changed. I think they have to. I think it actually suits. I mean, Johnson was obviously a bit of. They took better care of Johnson in this game. He was 1 of 10, but he still shot like 10 foul shots or something.
Yeah.
The rim. I will say, again, I didn't think they got the whistle was tight in this game. I mean, there was one in the first few minutes where, I'd have been fuming if I'd been on the Gladiators bench when they took away a layup in transition.
Oh yeah.
Paul Unsworth blew it
Back.
at the point of the shot clock. Well, the
Yeah.
shot clock was on 22. They didn't change it when they got the ball back.
Yeah.
It was like, what are you doing? And if I'm Gareth at that point, I'm like, what, really? Because it was hard enough for them to score anyway.
Mm.
And they just had this in both games. Obviously, I wasn't in East Kilbride, but they had this funny vibe about them, didn't they? It was almost like, and they've been here longer than anybody. Some of these guys have been since 1st of August. And that for a rookie, for someone like Clifton Moore, that's a long, long time.
It is, yeah.
And you just got the impression that they were resigned to it. Now, the other thing, and then this is a question, and I'm hearing all the kind of the stuff from the Eagles supporters at the moment. Oh, if we play like that, we can beat London. And I'm thinking, no, have to play a hell of a lot better than that. The reality is in that game, you're playing. Kyle Jimenez has averaged like 8 minutes a game. He played 25 minutes in that game. Kyle Jimenez is solid, competitive, tough as nails, but he's not Quade Green.
No.
Or Matt Morgan, or Tariq Phillip, or Jordan Taylor, or any of those guys, right? And particularly when you then end up with some of their other guys, Pat Whelan got into foul trouble. Pat Whelan kind of manfully tried to carry them through. I mean, Whelan and Ali Hodgson are the best two players.
Yeah,
long way.
Yeah.
Police are shooting airballs and stuff, and I'm thinking,
Paliza, the start on that. Paliza, Bothwell, and Jimenez combined for 1 for 15.
Yeah, and Bothwell, but even when Bothwell came in beginning of the third quarter, and you think they need a little bit of a push, and they got a little bit, they came out with a little bit more energy in the third quarter, but Bothwell never got into any rhythm, he never shot the ball. He played 7 minutes, he came back out again. And I remember sitting, my dad who was next to us, this could be the first American I've ever seen to have no points and 5 fouls in a playoff game. He got a few at the end just to kind of avoid that, and I think he didn't foul out. But he just wasn't a factor, and it was almost like the 3 fouls took him out of the game. Then not putting him back into the game took him out of the game further. And he's not a natural point guard anyway, so he's still trying to find the rhythm of his team when he comes back in. And Newcastle could have melted down, but Whitfield made a couple of big threes at the beginning of the third quarter when they were struggling for offense. And and he's not the guy that the opposition are expecting to make those threes because they were off the dribble and they weren't straightforward. And once they kind of rode that wave until Johnson came in, other than a few slightly dodgy neighbor minutes at the end of the third quarter, I was pretty comfortable that they were going to win.
So McGill with 22, Ward Hibbert, 5 of 8, 16 points, 8 rebounds, Green 14 and 10. They were 11 of 28 from 3-point range, shot 32 free throws, made 25.
Yeah, and that's 30 points and 18 rebounds from the 4 position. And Green did some good things and he did some not so good things again. But when Ward Hibbert comes in, and I think Evan was with you on the commentary. Evan said, when Ward Hibbert knocks down shots and he shoots the ones he's meant to shoot, particularly those corner threes that they haven't generated enough of this season for me. When he knocks down those shots, he becomes a very effective player. At one point, he really called Will Neighbor out right in front of me as well for not getting back on it, not getting back in a transitional play, and he was going at him. And I'm like, haven't seen that from anybody this season.
Mm.
It's not that not about what Milner wasn't doing. It was that someone's willing to actually, actually noticeably express kind of, you got to be better at that. You got to do that
Yeah.
better. And I haven't
Yeah.
seen that all year. So, he probably had London in his sights, I think, as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Oh, there was a great call at the end as well. And yeah, I'm sorry, Paul and I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, Matt. Yeah, there's only two goals I mentioned so far, and they're both of you. There was a pregnant pause in the arena when I think Faro knocked Del Pesh down in the post without 3 minutes to go, and it was either a flop or a charge.
Mm.
It was called a block. Literally, he was stood there, he was like this. He got knocked down. It was either a flop or a charge, and we all waited. No one knew what was being called. It was like, okay, block. No, I knew you were ready to go home, but how we,
Mm.
to call if you're going to call a flop by all means, but no, it can't be a block. Um, but other than that, a lot of fouls. But you look at back, it was a chippy game.
Mm.
I thought probably Caledonia were more impacted because they're not as deep without Green, and the 3 fouls on Bothwell were probably worth 12 fouls on Newcastle.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In reality, because they took him out of the game.
Uh, Whelan 18 points, 5 rebounds. Ali Hodges 13 points, 5 rebounds. More 12 points and 9 rebounds. They shot 36% from the floor and 2 of 19 from three.
And they struggled to generate threes, didn't they? I mean, only shot 19. That's not a lot for that team who's got, Paliza, Malcolm, Whelan, Onwas is shooting the basketball as well, Kyle Johnson, they're able to get shot, but and that's because of shot generation. You can't generate them without the guy who's basically changed the outlook of their team. And then you have your second choice guy who's out as well. Then Newcastle aren't going to be defending Kyle Jimenez the same way they did defending Quade Green. They're not going to be helping as much because they don't have to. If you don't get the shots, you don't get the threes.
Excuse me. Let's go to Saturday.
Oh,
Leicester Riders 74, Sheffield Sharks 77. Still no Mackenzie and Cook. Mackenzie, by the way, it was announced at the game. I don't know if it was any wider than that. He's in Canada following the birth of his child, hence why he's not been here. The game feels kind of irrelevant now, Dave, given we're going to talk
hoo-ha.
about the third leg in a minute. I
Yeah.
almost just wanted let's get to the end and talk about
Well,
that
there was a
leg. Is
couple
there
of things
anything
in
you
the game.
wanted to pick up on?
Yeah, a couple of things in the game. I mean, the problem that Leicester have without McKenzie is shot creation.
Hmm.
And their lineups aren't set. And Russell and Walker are starting, and at times you don't see them again after they
Hmm.
start. I think Russell came back in this game, but Walker basically starts both halves and then doesn't come back in. Um, Shelton appears to have kind of submarine down the depth chart as well.
Hmm.
Um, which means that Leicester are basically a bunch of kind of wings who can create their own shot,
Yeah.
and so that's Holmes is kind of running the point, and then a bit of Connor thrown
Hmm.
in. So Holmes, Allen, Law, and Thomas,
Hmm.
all guys who are skilled offensive players, but all guys who would benefit from being set up, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would probably say
Well,
maybe
we,
not.
we we were
Oh,
talking about it today. It just becomes a bit ISO at times, doesn't
it
it?
has to because
Yeah.
none of them have ever been point guards or even past first players.
Hmm.
They're slashers and they've been asked to perform a specific role, but they're not players who are capable of kind of breaking down offense in two dribbles. They're not going to come up with a screen and roll and fling the ball at the other corner. They're not. They're more skilled at getting their own shots. So that makes you it makes you easier to defend, and it also makes it harder to score because you're expending more energy if you can't score in
Hmm.
transition. You expend more energy to get good shots. You're having to make harder shots. Generally, the team that shoots the easiest shots wins the game. It's not rocket science, as it would. But if you get better looks, you win. Against that, Sheffield's problem in this game, and they weren't great either in this game, was not playing into Leicester's hands. At times, I thought they were playing a bit fast. I thought they were almost getting into transition a little bit more than they needed to. And I thought that was the only way Leicester could hang with them because Leicester were always going to struggle, I think, to score in the half court. A couple of big plays. One at the end of the first half, Adoa reaches in, commits a dumb foul with a second to
Hmm.
go on the halfway line. Gives, I think Sheffield got 1 point out of it, the point that they didn't need to have.
Mm.
Little things matter in the playoffs, you know, in close games, and 1 point makes a difference. Um, and then yeah, it was just kind of like the first game, wasn't it? Just back and forward until the
Yeah.
end. It was toss a coin and blow a whistle. And
Yeah, or not.
no,
Leicester briefly led by double figures in the first half. Sheffield were up 6 in the fourth quarter. It's a tied game. This is what we're here for. It's a tied game. Leicester get a defensive rebound. There's 40 seconds to play.
yeah,
Allen brings it down the right side of the court. He kind of loses it, but Adowu gets the ball. And now, whilst he's getting the ball, there's a bounce of the ball, and he then picks it up, has it under control. He
yeah,
clearly doesn't think that's a dribble.
no,
So then he then pivots around, sees Holmes on the other side of the floor, puts the ball on the floor for a dribble to pass it to Holmes,
yeah.
and is called for a double dribble. So
We haven't seen
Leicester,
many, we haven't seen many double dribbles all season, have
no,
we?
no, we haven't.
We watch all the games.
Yeah,
I don't remember many.
no. So it's a Sheffield ball with 25 seconds to go. So for our listeners who didn't like me this morning, go, what is the rule on what constitutes
Constitutes a
not
dribble.
being a dribble?
Yeah,
And because that was the thing, I in real time, I'm sat on the other side of the court. He's got his back to me. I couldn't see why the ball bounced.
yeah.
So when somebody came up to me after the game and said that's never a double dribble, I went, I can't see. I don't know. I then watched it back last night, and I didn't really think it was a double dribble, but I spent the day celebrating, so I was probably not.
Yeah,
I said to myself, I'll look at it in the morning and I'll actually
yeah,
look up. So, rule 24.1.4. The following are not dribbles. I won't read them all.
yeah.
I'll read two. One
No.
is attempts to gain control of the ball by tapping it from the vicinity of other players. And
Mm,
another one is fumbling the ball at the start or end of a dribble.
mm,
Neither of those two things constitute a dribble. Now, I would say,
second one, maybe.
that, but well, I think it's one or the other of the two would be my take.
Well,
Is
tapping away it doesn't suggest to me that you've regained possession. I mean, the
so
word away would suggest that
so
you wouldn't score back yourself.
it doesn't say away; it says tapping it from the vicinity of other players. It doesn't say
Okay,
away
fair
or
enough.
anything.
Okay, tapping it.
So I would say Malik Green's hands are going for the loose ball, and that if Adowu doesn't tap it away from
Mm,
his vicinity,
yeah,
Malik Green would get the ball. And
yeah,
therefore, I think that is attempting to gain control of the ball by tapping it away from the vicinity of another player, and therefore not a dribble. That was my initial view. Now, obviously, I watched this back multiple times in slow
yeah,
mo, and I didn't notice it at first. But if you look closely, at the point at which that Adowu picks the ball up before he pivots and
yeah. This is what my this is
Malik
I'll tell you.
Malik Green gives the double dribble signal,
Sorry. Yeah,
right? So he thought it was a double dribble on the first bounce.
yeah.
Well, Dave, the only way it can be a double dribble on the first
This
bounce,
bounce.
as you well know, is if somebody bounces it with two hands.
Yes.
You're allowed bouncing with two hands on the old power dribble, the
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
back when fours used to have their back to the basket and they do
Yeah.
a drop step, a power dribble, and a layup. But you have
Yeah.
to be going up with it. You can't
Fernell
do
Perry.
around it.
I remember who.
Pernell Perry,
Perry.
exactly. Good
Yeah.
example,
Thank you.
right? So Malik Green, his reaction doing that made me think maybe Adowu had bounced it with two hands and then picked it up. In which case, if it's not called a double dribble, which it wasn't, even though Malik Green asks, has he therefore not fumbled the ball and therefore it's not a dribble?
I'll tell you what I think happens.
Yeah.
Because there's one other thing that you haven't mentioned, which I think has impacted the ref in making the call. And it's that when Edowu picks the ball up, having had that either fumbled or bounced ball,
Mm.
he picks it up with one hand and effectively palms it for a split second to see, and you think he's going to continue his dribble, right? So you watch it, but he doesn't pick it up and immediately grab it and secure the ball,
The
right?
interesting thing is the bit that I haven't cropped out from the rules is it talks about getting it either under control of two hands or having a hand underneath the ball to gain control of it.
Yeah, so that's what he did. Now but he did what all the players do now is carry the ball. Everybody carries the ball, so
Yeah.
no one ever goals anymore. So as part of that dribble, as I said, part of that recovering the ball, he maintained what appeared to be the possibility of a dribble in the ref's mind, I think, by putting his hand under the ball, and it was either way he's going to turn it over and then he secured it. Okay, so he didn't immediately secure it with two hands, and I think because he did that, as if it was a continued dribble and then secured the ball, I think at that point Simon Unsworth thought, well, that's a dribble, because you were going to do another dribble. If that makes any sense. You were going to continue your dribble,
which he would be allowed to do, and but the first one
yeah,
still wouldn't count as a dribble.
well,
That would be the commencement
that would be
of his
exactly now
dribble.
but that's
in my view.
Yeah, that's the main thing of it. You know, as a ref, you're not that is not going through your mind. As a ref, it either looks right or it doesn't. Right now, as I say, if he had secured the basketball in two hands and grabbed it and then dribbled it, I don't think that call gets made. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, because to be honest, I'm going to sit right on the middle of the fence and say I wouldn't like if you look at the Gabe Olaseni one at Surrey, that isn't a double dribble. I think Edo's isn't a double dribble. I think on what we've seen all season, I think it probably isn't. Albeit you don't quite see on the camera exactly what kind of contact he had with the ball when he secured it. So on that level, I think it probably would have been better if it hadn't been called.
Yeah.
But I understand the triggers that went through the ref's mind, insofar as him thinking about continuing his dribble, picking it up, and then dribbling it again.
Well, I wonder if Malik Green hasn't done this.
Yeah,
I don't think he would have called it. I think because he's done the double dribble symbol, he's opened up the thought to double dribble.
Yeah.
Even though when Edowu then puts the ball on the floor and is called for the double dribble, Malik Green does not make that signal. So he doesn't think it's a double dribble at that point, would be my view.
At this point in time,
because he then turns around and looks to see what the call is.
Yeah, but there's no way in the world that I am trusting an American rookie to know anything.
Well,
from these are
the fact that he's called for one and then not called for one.
Yeah, these guys are still trying to call a timeout when the ball's live. Yeah, I get what you're saying. All in all, it was a rough call. I would say it was a
my view is, reading the rule and having not read this line of the rule before, is I can't see how it's a double dribble personally. I can see how somebody can make an argument for it, but I don't think we would not have spent 5 minutes talking about that play if it was not called.
That's true.
We would have said Holmes gets the ball and he misses a shot, or he makes a shot, or he does whatever. We would not have even mentioned it.
What I will say is, the one caveat to all of this is, as I say, we never got a kind of a baseline look, and we never got a sideline look, and the guy with the best look is the ref.
Yeah, he's 2 feet away.
So I get so that caveat. So we're talking about what we could see, and it's on the basis of what's on the cameras. Or what it ultimately comes down to is what he did with that first dribble, and what it was for. And if the ref thinks that's a real dribble and he's right close to it, then he has to have his reasons. As I say, I'm kind of on your side. I'm still pretty much astride the fence because I understand why it was called. But having seen the Olaseni one, and go back 150 in the second quarter, Olaseni gets the ball in the post, one hand dribble, one hand bounces it to control the ball, and then makes his post move. If that's not called, then I think at that point in time it's a tough one. Tough one to take. And I probably would not be as lugubrious about it had I been sat on the bench.
Yes, exactly.
If I can put it that way.
Yes. So Sheffield get the ball back with 25 seconds to go. Timeout, no advance the ball. Nixon runs the clock goes around the screen, deep three, knocks it down, 1.6 seconds to go, 74-77.
Oh man, here's my head in. Nixon, the one shot Nixon's shown he's capable of making from anywhere on the court is going to his left, fading back. He plays into Leicester's hands by running the clock down as far as he does, right? So he's run the clock down to 3 seconds. That means there's no time for anything else to happen in reality. That means that if you're Edowu, you at that point have to say, right, you're not beating us, you're going to have to pass the ball because there's not enough time.
Mm.
He cannot be off on the screen. If he's gonna, if Nixon's gonna, if he comes up and shows on that screen, and Nixon does not get that shot. I mean, Sean, I mean, right up. Thinking, right, because there's 4 seconds to go, 3 seconds to go. If they throw a bounce pass to Del Pesce or whoever it is if Nixon's good enough to thread the needle, throw a bounce pass to the roller, well, you've got to hope one of your mates is there, and they've got to make another pass. And at this point in time, the clock's done. The game, the shot's got gone. Instead, there was an earlier play in the game where Nixon himself went under a screen on Connor. And he didn't just go under a screen. He went, he may went the wrong way around the M25 on the screen. Gave Connor a setup job before he just knocked a 3 down. And it's like, players have to be smarter. Samet Dow has to be up on that screen. I cannot believe they have not been prepped on what Prentice Nixon's game is. You take away his airspace. He doesn't want to get to the rim much. He doesn't get to the rim much. He wants to pull up and shoot it. And letting him set you up like that, just befuddling. As a coach, I'd be, absolutely gobsmacked that we let that happen. It just shouldn't have happened. And then the corollary to that is what happened on the next play, where he was definitely up on this.
Yes. So timeout Leicester, advance the ball, 1.6 seconds to go. They obviously run some people off some screens. The ball is into Thomas.
Rob ran that play against us 10 years ago. He's been running it since. The 2 curls and the double screens at the top, and the big guy pops out. Yeah.
Thomas shoots the 3. It doesn't go in. The question is foul or no foul. Now, in the gym, sat there watching.
Yeah.
I thought it was a foul. Yeah. And I actually thought the referee had blown a foul because I saw the referee make a fist symbol.
He did. He changed. He went boom, boom, boom.
Called a foul.
He did a 3-card trick. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. So I was a little surprised when I realized that he didn't call a foul.
Call the whistle.
So my take on that. So this is interesting. The one public service advice, people, everybody who's been in my Twitter feed backwards and forwards, who is telling me it's 100% a foul or 100% not a foul, you're wrong.
I absolutely
it is not definitively a foul, and it is not definitively not a foul. It's somewhere in between. So don't come to me with absolutes, because there is no absolute on that. This is one, and I was sat with the Zany earlier today, and we were going through frame by frame. Is it a foul? Is it not a foul? My take, and why I thought it was a foul live in the building, and why I thought it was a foul when I then later watched it back, and again watched it back again this morning, is I've seen that call all season long. Because we were told in pre-season, Richard Stokes came and talked to us and said, landing space fouls, this is our point of emphasis, we're going to do it. Now, my view is we've gone too far with the landing space foul, and there's been way too many landing space fouls, and sometimes the defenders, what are they supposed to do, right?
I don't know how identical it is to a lot of the calls we've seen, though, because a lot of the calls, not many of the calls we've seen have had a guy just basically walling up. Normally it's a defensive player who is moving towards the offensive player to challenge the shot, if you know what I mean.
No, I get you, but I'm still saying we've seen a lot of landing space fouls, and he lands on top of the player and falls down. And my view of Thomas's feet, where he goes up and where he comes down, is pretty close to each other. And obviously
he did overextend. I think
we learned from was it Newcastle last year that the shooter has the entire distance to wherever the legal player, defensive player. Now, here's the thing we were chatting about today when Azania was flipping through one of them. The issue is, as I say, I think Thomas is trying to make the shot. I don't think he's trying to draw a foul. And I think Rotino is doing everything he can to avoid committing a foul. I don't think it's one of these dumbass closeout things that we see all the time. I think he's doing everything he can to not call a foul.
Yeah.
The question is does he finish in the space? There's obviously contact. I don't think anybody can argue there's contact. Does he finish in the shooter's space or not. And the interesting one on it is
Does
there
he
is
start in the shooter's space? So
hey.
does he shot? Does he? Is a question of where he starts as opposed to where he
So
finishes?
so where he starts, the gap between that and the shooter is the shooter's to land in. So it's
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
does he move at
that's the
all?
point. Yes.
So
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 yeah,
Azania was texting one of her referee friends who's not British and they were giving a view. There is a small movement of 1 foot. I
yes.
think the
Left
left
foot.
foot stays still and the right foot moves. It might be the other
I
way
think
around.
the
I
other way
don't
around.
know.
The left foot moves slightly forwards and slightly back, I think.
So there's a question of
Yeah.
where does the space start? Is it level with? Is it level? Is it perpendicular from the furthest foot forward, or is it both? And the other interesting thing on it, watching it back, is at the point at which the shooter is going up, he is in a sort of defensive stance. So his knees are slightly bent. So
Yeah.
that means his backside is sticking out a little bit, and therefore his torso is back a little bit.
Yeah.
As he goes, as the shooter goes up, he straightens up. Well,
Yeah.
obviously, as you straighten up, your
Stomach
torso
sticks
moves
out.
forward and your backside comes forward. So there is that.
His stomach sticks out and takes the space away.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
is that taking space? I,
Is it, I mean, that if that was that's the old
I
Billy
don't
Singleton.
know. I
That was
don't know is the answer to
The
that.
old Billy Singleton play, whereby he
Yeah.
created space simply with his stomach.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly legal to create space with your stomach when not many players were built like Billy Singleton.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've nailed it. Effectively, there's three. I mean, I've read all this stuff, and like there's three potential ways I've been told it could be a foul, and none of them are definitive.
Mm.
First is left arm where we couldn't see, and there's
I
no
don't.
see,
I
right? I
didn't think the
mean,
arm was an issue at
the
all.
second one is the stomach.
Yeah.
The third one is the landing space.
Yeah.
And all
And I think those two are interlinked, by the way.
Yeah, I think so. And then so we're getting into kind of a Joe Linton versus Arsenal situation, whereas did the ball go out? Did he push him in the back? Was he offside?
Yeah.
All of this stuff, and we're breaking. They're getting 4 minutes to break down 3 seconds, and we're getting all this time. It would have been better if he hadn't changed his signal to a fist.
Yeah.
What I would say, and
Which, by the way, is the other reason it isn't definitive, people. If the referee is processing in his head, and by doing that, that's a
yeah,
sort of signal, it might be a foul, or no,
foul,
it's
and
not a
no,
foul.
no, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. And then I'll go back to it's really it's hard. I mean, I can't say. I don't think if it had video, they'd have overturned that. I don't think there was enough there to say that's different. Definitely a foul on the video. I don't think they've had the bottle to overturn it anyway. But it's a combination of those three
But then
things.
if it's called, so presumably you're saying if it's called a foul, they wouldn't overturn it the other way
Yes,
either. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the only thing I will say about the kind of the basketball side of it. So I'm not throwing a ref under a bus for that. I just think it's different to almost anything. I mean, if you think about the one that wasn't called for Sheffield at Bristol, remember back
Yeah,
when
yeah, yeah, yeah,
second where
yeah,
a team
yeah,
was
yeah,
caught on the
yeah,
halfway
yeah,
line.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
that was 3 times the foul that this one was, but the stakes are higher in this game.
yeah.
So from Latiba's perspective, kind of what goes around comes around. I didn't get the call at Bristol, but we got the benefit of the one here. But what I would say about the basketball karma of it, and I think you've nailed the foul situation. As I say, I don't think it didn't look right, but you didn't see anything which looked entirely wrong either. If that made any sense. So I think you've nailed that. Not in real time, but the karma side of it, Edowa wasn't up. Rutino was up. Rutino was doing what he was meant to do. Edowa wasn't. And from that perspective, Sheffield, I don't have a philosophical problem with Sheffield getting the call. As I say, it would have been better if we'd had an old Neil Wilkinson style game over, or because he didn't see that initially. Because as you say, it's that, but no one goes game over. We're
Yeah,
out. No
yeah.
foul. What you want, you can't have that kind of
It
pregnant pause.
felt like I'm looking at you. What did you think? But nobody
Yeah,
wanted to have a conversation.
but you can't have a conversation because ultimately the guy Simon's got the best angle. It's his call. If neither ref has called a foul, you can't go and join together afterwards and have two of them decide, oh, it is a foul after all. That looks even worse. And at that point, you get Ratiba doing what Rob does,
Yeah, yeah.
kicking off. It's a no-win. It's a no-win situation. So I
My
think,
my
and
my
also on top of
my
that,
take would be
it's
Atiba would kick off
juxtaposition.
slightly less because I go back to I feel like that's been a point. Well, I know
But
that's been a point of emphasis, and therefore,
he would have kicked off
again,
slightly
going back to the earlier point, if
because the
that
game
was
will
called a
continue.
foul,
Yeah.
we'd have spent 5-10 seconds going, "Oh, it's close. It's a landing space. It's a tight one," and then we would have moved on to did he make the free throws or not.
Yeah, that's true.
We
Nativa wouldn't
wouldn't.
have kicked
We
off as much
Yeah,
because the game's still continuing.
yeah. We wouldn't have spent 10 minutes talking about that either.
I think if it made a difference in the game, I might have found a way.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, but the
we made
reality
all
is
three.
it didn't not making a call uh not making a call ended the game with a
Yeah,
result.
yeah.
Making a call
Doesn't end the
doesn't
game.
end the game
We move
because
on.
he's got to go to the free throw line and make
Yeah,
three free throws. And
yeah.
even in the off chance that he does make all three, which I wouldn't have bet on, by the way, but if
No.
he made all three, there's 5 more minutes for whichever team's going to win it
I
in
tell you what, yeah,
overtime.
and we've been through games like that, haven't we? Whereby the worst call
Yeah,
in the world is then forgotten about 5 minutes later. Yeah,
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Absolutely right. Yeah, yeah. It just goes to show. But I mean, the final point, of course, is that whilst I don't think they would have overturned it, the lack of ability to challenge,
Mm,
lack of ability to review. One coach's challenge each. We can do it in the. What's really frustrated me this year is that we've took on all the stuff in the NBA that I don't like.
mm,
We've ignored all the stuff in the NBA that I do.
mm,
The coaches challenge stuff in the NBA is really impactful and relevant and helps. The checking the clock at the end of the shot clock, the ability to go back and look if someone's foot is on the line for shooting a two instead of a three and just deal with it administratively so the game doesn't lose. Instead, we've lumbered ourselves with multiple timeouts that we don't need. We've slowed the game down to the pace of a crawl, and we're using that as a reason not to do the stuff that really makes a difference.
mm.
So I'm telling you now, if they've got the TV there and Rob challenges, all Rob does is do it like that, challenge,
Mm,
right? And the air is out of the whole thing
mm.
because the refs go around there, and if they still take that view, then at the end of the day, you can't. The argument is kind of dead
Mm.
because it's you might disagree with that. You might want to send a strongly worded letter of protest to Stokes
Yeah,
after.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ultimately, you can't do it. Now, for everybody's sake, with these games being broadcast, this has to happen. And I'm sorry that if you can do all the other crap that we're doing and not do stuff to actually improve the mechanics of the game and the fairness of the game and making sure that everybody has the necessary support, then you're not serious about running the professional basketball league. Not It's 2024 now, not 2015 anymore. The will has to be there to do it, and this is not about technology. It's not about money. It's certainly not about causing delay, given that the Newcastle Caledonia game was like 2 hours 6 minutes.
Mm,
Right? Don't try and sell me on that. This is about convenience. It's about not wanting to do the hard things, which ultimately can make a difference in meaning games. And that is your example. That is your absolute example.
mm,
Simon Unsworth deserves the opportunity to go and have a look at that,
mm,
and if necessary, to break it down and to form a view. Because I'm telling you now, in real time, when you see Thomas go up and you see Ratinho stood like that, and you're trying to figure out, refereeing the defender, has Ratinho moved forward? Has he impacted him? Has Thomas gone straight up? You're trying to do all of that stuff. It's borderline impossible.
mm.
It's instinct. And the only thing I'd say is, if you had a little bit more chutzpah and just waved it off, and, no, we're off. Don't be silly. Better than kind of the little bit of indecision. Indecision kills you.
Mm.
And and that's, as I say, I remember 25 years ago at Newcastle Arena, I was a fan, and Neil Wilkinson called a goaltend for TJ Walker at the end of overtime, and Newcastle won 105, 104. When I think Wilbur Johnson or somebody had touched the rim on TJ's late, which had missed, and the game was dead at the end of the game. And Neil Wilkinson just, I think it was a missed foul shot by Nate Ranking. TJ went down the court in 5 seconds, missed the layup, but the hands went through the rim. Finch was coaching Sheffield at the time. Garbaletto was coaching Newcastle. And Neil just came from behind the backboard, as dramatic as you like, straight to the table. Good basket, good. Get out of there. Sheffield go bonkers. Finch is on the court. Well, whatever. What do you mean? What do you mean? There's stuff on the TV and the stuff in the papers afterwards. But there was no, and I think the video showed it to be the right call, but I might be wrong. But there was no doubt about it. It was just definitive. That's the way it is. And he did the same in that European final.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He called he gave a cool and that having that certainty and that ability to kind of see what's coming and that certainty and the way it does impact things, it does impact players. And it's almost better to be certainly wrong than probably right.
Yeah.
You know,
I suppose the downside to your coach challenge is Rob probably would have used it 25 seconds earlier.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but in the NBA you get another one if you win.
Okay. Okay.
You get a second one if you win the first one.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't see a problem with referees having the discretion to go at the monitor in the last 30 seconds of every game.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that. I think when you get to that point, it's like you in the cricket you get your three challenges or whatever, and if there's a dodgy stump and the umpires can ask to go to the monitor. At that point in the game, everybody just wants it to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I sat through 2 hours of basketball, and I'm not worried about another minute of a ref looking at a monitor saying, "Oh, actually, look, yeah, that is an offensive foul. That's a mistake on me." So they should have that ability to do that. So yeah, but it's just it was unsatisfactory.
My take is if the call that was called was not called and the call that was not called was called, we'd have spent the last 20 minutes talking about the game.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yes.
So Allen 23 points and 7 rebounds. Idowu 13 points, no tertiary scorer really. 8 for 34 from 3. Green 22 points, 10 of 13, 11 rebounds. Nixon 15.6 rebounds, 7 assists. Again, no third scorer. They were 2 of 15 from 3-point range.
Yeah, Green. I mean, Green's interesting because he's playing the 5 instead of the 4, and it's kind of helped him kind of take the 3-point shot out of his arsenal, which is kind of good because he's only shooting 18%. So he's ended up being more playing at the 5 when Coke's not there. He's more of a screen and roll kind of finishing guy, and he's an excellent finisher within 10 feet. He gets a ball, he gets a touch, he gets one dribble, he's got the little floater, he's got the layup. And I thought, Leicester's weakness has been all season, defending around the rim. And again, he got 10 of 13. I don't think he made a jump shot in this game. They were all around the rim.
Yeah. So to today, Sheffield Sharks 86, Leicester Riders 69. I thought Sheffield looked really comfortable earlier, and I thought Leicester did well to be 11 all after 6 minutes.
Yeah, there's a few things. Firstly, that last game 3 you mentioned, 1999, Telly Arena.
Yes.
Yeah, I was there too. Leon McGee.
Leon McGee.
Everybody remembers Leon McGee, Leicester in Newcastle. He was the man who used to go before every game. He'd go onto the mic at the scorer's table and shout, "Let's get ready to rumble." I was like,
he was a character.
He was more than a character. It was Leon McGee and I think it was Rob Phelps in the back court, Newcastle, something like that. Or maybe in Dwayne Wharton, Phelps got injured. And they played against Cadel and Danny Lewis.
Towers, yeah.
And they filled the arena. It was game 3. There's about 5,000 people there. It was a full proper game. And I always remember, it was Craig Lynch coaching Newcastle, and I always remember Newcastle were in a foul situation. They were down 1 with like 15, 20 seconds to go. And McGee, who was an absolutely talismanic shot maker, he had this ability to make shots from any angle, any place, and his character not to be afraid to take them. He was like Trey before Trey. And McGee was on 4 fouls, and Lynch left him in the game, and he committed the 5th foul, stopping the clock. I was furious. Because Lewis wasn't going to miss.
No.
Danny Lewis, for those who don't know, was, he was certainly top 5 in point guards we ever had in this country, I think. I think, unless you can tell me different.
No, I would agree with that.
And then once you get into top five, there's so little difference between them all, and
Mm.
it really doesn't matter. He was archetypal, tough, winning, clutch basketball player. He wasn't
Clutch. Yeah.
clutch, yeah, absolutely. And Cadle wasn't going to screw it up.
Mm.
And so he knocks down the two threes, and Newcastle, couldn't get a shot off because Leon wasn't in the game.
Mm.
And I always remember being really annoyed. I don't remember anything else about that game. Really annoyed. Saying, why? If Leon's in the game, he
Mm.
pulls a shot out of his backside, and you never know, and there's another guy got. But anyway, so yeah, so welcome back, game threes.
Mm.
Game. And to be fair, we wouldn't have had
I
to.
couldn't believe I looked it up. Leicester had never played a game three in the
Yeah,
British Basketball League. They played
well,
three in the 3 years that there was literally every year for 3 years when they went to eight before the
mm,
league started and then didn't play one. I mean, they were rubbish, so they didn't make the playoffs half the time,
yeah.
but it's still odd.
Yeah, and to be fair, again, the advantage of the three-game series is we had two proper games out of Sheffield and Leicester with two proper endings as opposed to one.
Mm.
So we get more drama, which is good. What it does mean, however, is this horrendous turnaround,
Mm.
this nonsensical turnaround. And it's nonsensical because the women are playing at 6 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
So why weren't the men playing at 6 o'clock tonight and the women playing at 3? What's going on? I'm not, that's not because the women should be bumped around for the sake of the men, but the women didn't know what time they were going to be playing anyway until the last night.
No, they
Because,
didn't. No,
because
because the men's game was either going to be 3 or 4. That much I know. And the first iteration of the women's fixtures that I saw, that the women's game was at 12. So I assumed they
yeah,
were going
well,
to go 12 and 4, and then it became 3 and 6.
yeah, well, I know this is all this because Paul was telling us on Friday night, or someone was telling us on Friday night that they couldn't even book the bus to Newcastle women because they didn't know what time they were going to be starting.
Mm.
So why? So why is the men's game being thrown in at 3 o'clock? Is that for Sky?
I don't know the answer. I honestly don't know.
Right. I mean, anyway, the 6:15 to a 6:15 to 6 o'clock would have been bad enough, but 6:15 to 6:45 to
Mm.
3 o'clock is just abhorrent and from a competitive standpoint and from a kind of a product standpoint. Just it just wouldn't happen in any other situation. And I understand Leicester couldn't play earlier because you've had the local elections in there and all sorts of
The
stuff.
15 votes for the PCC needed counting.
Counting, yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly.
I think it was a 21% turnout, I believe.
Listen to that. So yeah, the PCC is not much of a three-point shooter then.
Not really, no.
Only going at 21%. Um, and I get that, but it comes down to, could game two not have been played last weekend? I don't know. Could it not have been, could we not have gone Friday, Sunday for that game or Thursdays? It just it's sad. And the thing was, it actually created a substantial competitive disadvantage in this game, because of the makeup of the teams. Now, obviously, the makeup of the teams could be different, so it doesn't necessarily mean that. But Leicester, without Mackenzie, without a real shot creator, without the depth that Sheffield have got at the guard spot, was substantially more impacted in this game in relation to energy and shot creation than Sheffield were. Sheffield have four guards they can run out and come out and play. Leicester really, and guards matter because guards are the guys who are creating the shots for others primarily. And what you saw was, and certainly, and on top of that, I mean, we've said a lot of things about Teddy Allen, but you probably wouldn't put, conditioning at the highest point of his skill set.
Mm.
And he looked weary in this game, and basically Coutinho played harder than him in this game.
Mm.
I thought, in the second half, he was borderline disinterested at times on defense. Um, but even then, it's hard. He hasn't got anybody getting him the ball. Darren Holmes is making plays, but again, he's having to make plays individually. Um, doesn't appear to have a tremendous amount of confidence in Russell because he played a little bit, but he's a guard, but didn't come back on. Connor played a little bit and then came back on, but a lot of times they were playing with like, um, the three forwards, Lowell, Holmes, and Allen on court at the same time in the backcourt. And I just thought their ability to generate good shots suffered as a result. And I think part of that was legs.
Mm.
And I think and part of that also was, whilst, we talked about it last week, who do you miss more, Mackenzie or Cook? I think the answer is probably you miss Cook more over one game, but you miss Mackenzie more over three. That makes sense. Because over one game, Sheffield have to kind of maneuver stuff around and muddle people around and find spots for them to get everything right. But over 3 games, Leicester have to be able to create some shots
Mm.
and for each other and can have a little bit of structure. You can win a game without much structure on individual talent over 1 game, but very difficult to win 3. And the best chance, the best shot was last night. Obviously, they had 2 possessions. They had a 2-for-1 situation, and there was a double dribble and a possible foul,
Mm.
and they gave three.
And
One of the,
Mackenzie would have been bringing the ball up the floor, not Allen,
oh, of course, I mean the whole.
before the double dribble.
But yeah, I mean the whole.
I still think the answer is Mackenzie, even over 1 game. Personally, just I think
Not with
given
a.
that team needs Mackenzie. So as much as they do play through Cook, I still think it's Mackenzie. Sharks got up 10 in the second quarter. Holmes 8 in a row, cut it to 37-36. 2 minutes from halftime, it's 40-37. 3 minutes into the third quarter, it's 53-37. 13 in a row. Rotino hit a couple of threes to start it. Green had 5 points at the end of it. And despite a little bit of resistance from Adowu in the third quarter, that was that.
Yeah, and effectively Leicester's guards struggled to score. Leicester's forwards struggled to score. And they were never going to be able to run with Sheffield without any. I don't think Allen scored in the second half. Holmes certainly didn't score much. Thomas needs to be set up a little bit. He's not. If you give Thomas the ball to make a play, he can make a play, but he needs to be in the right places to make a play. You need to get him the ball. And I thought the legs went a little bit, and I thought the turn. So I think the turnaround probably. The turnaround's always going to favour the home team because the home team gets to sleep. Has the comfort level of the environment that they're in, and doesn't have to travel on the day. That even an hour and a half, even 2 hours. You played last night. You finished last night at 9 o'clock. Your adrenaline's flowing. You're not getting to sleep until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning if you're a player. Then you're getting up and you're on the bus at 10. It's nonsense, really. I can't. As fans, you just see you see the product. You see the guys when they walk out on the court. And you don't have any kind of comprehension of what's gone on to getting them on the court and all the things that they've had to do and manage and food and nutrition and sleep patterns and all of that stuff. And just throwing them out there, 18 hours after they finish playing in a different city. If we are serious about making the product the best it can be, this just cannot happen. It just cannot happen. It cannot be allowed to happen. And I don't care about how difficult it is. There are always solutions. If you start far enough ahead, then you mandate what they need to be. However, and it might take a strong central. It takes a strong central function to do that because we've had this situation where League's quite happy to mandate, we want teams to play on a Thursday and we want, we can cover this for the TV. But in relation to kind of double headers and turnarounds and ridiculous travel and sets like that, sometimes both teams might not agree at the best times for games. And it takes someone in the middle to say, no, this is the way it's going to be done. And it takes the rules to be written that way, that this is what is required. And I get it's difficult. I understand it's difficult, but it's an excuse mentality to say it's difficult. Cheshire, credit to Cheshire this year. They played some games on a Saturday. They're playing the semi-final next week on a Friday. To get their first game, right? Cheshire since Northgate have been Sundays at 5 o'clock.
Sunday
5:30, right? 6 o'clock. Always. But this year, they've managed with Ellesmere Port to be flexible enough to be able to, when it's required, play those games then. Right? If they can do it, anyone can do it because everybody else has got their venues. So
I'm sitting here and thinking, we might. Let's hope Newcastle London doesn't go to 3 games.
Well, I'm understand. Well, somebody mentioned that, and I don't know this officially. I've not spoken to anybody in Newcastle about it. That London would give up the 3rd game at home.
No, I've seen it. I've seen a date and time for it.
Oh well, okay. Well, there you go. That's a false rumor then. It did surprise me a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you're suggesting to me it's like going to be 1 o'clock at the University of East London, I'm not.
It's not. It's not.
Okay, well,
But
I
it,
mean,
but it is the day after. It is scheduled for the Monday.
Jesus.
Mm.
Well, I
So
say absolute Jesus. You know, just utter nuts, utterly nuts, and bad, and I'm afraid indicative of bad planning. It's if that's the best you can do, you failed. I don't think it will go to three. I don't think Newcastle will manage to take one off London. I'd love them to, and I know they are better, but I still don't think they're anywhere close to where kind of a ready London team are. London's a Euro Cup team, and Newcastle Euro Cup semi-finalist team, and Newcastle's a slightly better than average BBL team, at this point. So, it'd be a hell of a shock if Newcastle won one. Kind of hope they do now, just to embarrass the league in relation to the schedule. Sorry. I shouldn't want the league to be
no,
embarrassed.
you shouldn't
I am
really do
supportive
that.
of the
So
league. I
yes,
am
yes.
generally supportive. That's why we're talking about it. But they can't get away with luck every time. If
Mm.
this, you have an extra week for the playoffs, or you play the first round games earlier,
Yeah,
or you mandate
I
stuff.
think that for me was the missed opportunity was allowing a week between game one and game two.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, yeah, not almost
Because
like
actually, if you play Friday, Sunday last week, then you could play Friday, Sunday this week, and then
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
you've got a
absolutely.
longer run to sell
I
tickets.
just don't think. I just don't think I think we're a little bit myopic in relation to. I think maybe because of the lack of experience and potential kind of expertise in the kind of the new league office in relation to this type of stuff, in relation to the nuts and bolts of running the league. Um, and I don't think they see the problems before they happen. I think they get hit in the face by the problems
Mm,
well after people like me have whinged about them.
mm,
And I think they need, and hopefully that'll just be a 1 year thing, and hopefully it'll be sorted out for next year as the experience improves.
mm,
We'll see one more thing as well. I missed out in relation to the Surrey London game. I didn't listen to the guys on the watch along because
mm.
I don't think that was a target audience, to be fair.
No, I don't think you would
Um,
do.
I didn't, but I'm not knocking them. So
Yeah,
so good
yeah,
job. But I had absolutely no problem watching that game with one camera with no replays. The betting feed
yeah,
effectively.
yeah, yeah,
In fact, I almost enjoyed it more because I was able to see everything that was going on all the time.
yeah.
And so this suggestion that when there's three games on, we can only broadcast two of them. Nah, not having it. Not having it. Put them all out there. If you can only offer a skeleton service, that's more than good enough for me.
Did I give the scores in this game? I don't think I
Oh,
did.
God.
Nixon 17 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Pipkins 6 of 7 for 15 points. Green 14 points, 12 of 31 for 3. Sheffield. Adowu 16 points, 12 rebounds. Holmes 15 points. Leicester was 6 of 24 from 3 and 15 of 27 from the free throw line. Missed a
That's the
lot.
other thing. That's tired legs as well.
Mm,
I mean, obviously they're not being a great free throw shooting team, but you can't. They had the stuff that knocked out of them the night before.
mm.
That's the reality of it.
You talked about London, Newcastle, Sheffield.
Yeah.
Can she Sheffield laying a
I don't.
significant blow on Cheshire? Knocking.
I think Cheshire would have preferred to play Sheffield than Leicester. No one will ever admit that. No one ever does. No one ever picks it. You don't ever pick your opponents for the risk of winding them up. But Cheshire and Leicester have had a history this year of going up and down,
Mm,
and they got scorers both ways. And Cheshire's attention to um, shooters on defense, I think Leicester with all their wings might can match up okay with them. Um, Sheffield's a different game. They're still playing at a slower pace in Cheshire. I think Cheshire will have a couple of spurts in them in these games where Sheffield will go dry. And I think there's a risk that at that point for Sheffield that all it takes is 2 8-0 runs and the game is over.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what I fear for Sheffield against Cheshire. I think Cheshire's a better matchup for I think Sheffield is a better matchup for Cheshire than Leicester is. Um, I don't want to underestimate Sheffield. Obviously, they've got a good thing going. Um, and then they've played small, so they're going to be able to match up with Cheshire. If Kipper Nichols and Malik Green are playing the five a bit, and there's no reason why they should be able to guard Shawshua and White or switch on those screens or whatever. But and then again, it's going to be interesting because Nixon and Rideau are going to go at each other big
Mm,
time.
mm.
you know. So it'll be fun to watch. But I think Cheshire have a swagger that Sheffield don't.
I agree.
I think that'll carry them through. I think might be entirely wrong.
Yeah, we will find out. I assume we will. Well, we'll because I might well be working next Sunday. I can't remember now what I've got. So we might do next Sunday night, but obviously, if it goes to game three, they'll be in all likelihood very early in the week afterwards. So we
Yeah.
might wait for that if either of them go to game three.
Mm.
So you'll have to, do whatever you do, subscribe and all of that sort of thing, and it'll
Yeah.
ping to you. And Dave
And
will
that's
like
our
that.
sales pitch for us, subscribe and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
As you can see, we're
yeah,
chasing the dream here,
yeah,
we're going to monetize this till the cows come home. Just subscribe and that type of thing. Yeah.
yeah.
You'll not see any clips online. You'll not see any,
No,
no,
no.
because if you emphasize one part of the podcast, you're denigrating the rest.
Yes,
So
exactly. Come,
everything,
come for the whole,
every come for the whole thing.
whole
And all
two
these people who
hours.
just dip in to listen about their team,
Yeah,
really show some self-respect.
yes, yes. So on that bombshell of insulting the audience, we're gonna go, and we'll be back at some point in the future to do it all again. But for now, goodbye.